Andy McBain, Head of Regional EVM Product Management at Zebra EMEA. Welcome.
Hello, nice to see you.
And David Forster, Brand Manager Zebra within BlueStar EMEA.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Again.
Good to be back. Yeah.
Welcome again. Hey, we have been talking about this for years. I remember 15 years ago, someone came to me and say, hey, RFID is a great solution and barcode is dead. And ever since, we have been claiming every single year is the year of the RFID. But now you come to me and tell me the year has come. The year is there. What has changed, Andy?
I think, and if we focus in slightly, if we look at lots of different RFID technologies, I'd say UHF, which is the most common one, the last few years there's been a growing trend. And we've certainly seen adoption around asset management and a few other areas come into play. So yeah, there's definitely the year of RFID progressing, and I think now we're into our 15th month of the year of RFID is growing. Is that consistent growth?
Okay, but the market is quite big. The market is growing, right, David? And we are experiencing really a huge demand from the reseller point of view, on this technology.
Yeah, definitely. I think a few things have happened over the last few years, which we're all aware of, global trends and changes that have forced people to start to use things in a different way. And I think, RFID, we're seeing double-digit growth across the last 2 years. The addressable market is massive, right, Andy?
Last year we saw a 17% growth in what we determine as the service addressable market, so the areas of the market that we can come in. Quarter four last year saw the largest, around 34% growth. So definitely adoption happening certainly in EMEA. I can talk about that one, and I think also in North America we've seen that.
Correct.
Asia Pacific is a bit slower in the way it works at that level, but yes, strong growth. And Zebra took share from our number 2 competitor in the marketplace last year.
Yeah.
And the other largest area was what we define as a bucket of others, so smaller players out in the market. But there's definitely growth. Many
of them, by the way, yeah. Many of little producers are also claiming to have the technology, but basically
mainly very, very niche, and they'll only target one particular sector or vertical of the market.
Okay.
So what do you think's driving that success from your point of view? Is it the depth of the product portfolio, the versatility of the options? What particular?
So last year, most of our growth came from handheld readers. And the easiest way using handheld is a lot of people may have already bought a mobile computer, and we therefore are now enable those readers to have an accessory attachment. Either a retail-focused attachment or more of an industrial-focused attachment. And therefore, I'm enabling an estate to go off and do RFID, and that's the easiest way people are getting to grips with it to start with.
Cost of investment for the solution is a bit lower.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So what are the trends that we could be identifying, in the market today for the RFID, Andy?
So asset management continues to be a strong growth area.
Yeah.
Everybody has spent a lot of money over the last few years on buying things.
Which is good, right?
Oh, great. Always helps us. But now, of course, people want to know where those assets particularly are. And asset visibility, which is a strong area that the Zebra is involved in, try and help and drive that. And there's very different verticals that are helping, and we're seeing adoption faster than others at that level. So, yeah, it's good. It's good.
Okay, fantastic. But I can imagine, that because every time we talk about new technologies, well, RFID is not a new technology, but something like an emerging or growing market, I would say that's the most accurate expression, we always try to identify, where the opportunity might be, and sometimes I am sure that a lot of small resellers, small system integrators, they might be also afraid of the technology. They know there is an opportunity, but they might think return of investment could be not as fast as with other technologies. They might also be having a lack of knowledge to implement this technology, but I think those facts have been changing dramatically also in the last years, and things are much different to 15 years ago when I was referring to before.
Yeah, there are certain easier markets to start in RFID than some of the others. As I mentioned, asset visibility across all verticals is an easier one to get into. But then if you want to drill down, fashion, fast-moving fashion items has always been seen as an early adopter because I need to know what I've got on the shelf and what I drive. new purchases. Interesting one that is a bit of a strange one coming in is around what we define as quick service restaurants.
Yeah.
And how restaurants and RFID to go together around legislation and compliance is one that's servicing a need within the whole of the world, the climate, trying to save the climate.
I'm really surprised when you told me that before, but can you explain a little bit for our audience?
Yeah,
how is that working? Because, I mean, if they tell me, hey, this is going to be a major factor, an instrumental factor, in these restaurants, I didn't believe it, So
yeah, are they going to be asset tagging my burger? Like, I mean,
well,
why not?
Engineering food, one and engineering a tagging as well. So we'll pick up some facts to start with. So the World Wide Fund for Nature have stated that by 2050 there'll be more plastic in the sea than fish by weight, which is a bit of a shock, as we all like to go and visit the sea.
Yeah.
8 million tons of plastic effectively is what the Earth.org reckon that will be, which is a staggering amount of plastics.
Yeah.
And they think the majority of that comes from fast food connected with straws, packaging and other bits and pieces.
Correct.
So they're trying to work out, driven by climate and compliance changes, how can we start to address some of that? So at a very high level, you want to embed into reusable items or items that perhaps today are seen as disposable but could be turned into reusable, and then embed a tag. And that allows then traceability of when it's been thrown away. Also, when you need to put it back through a cleaning process or a heat treatment process, a requirement to do that. So we're seeing particularly some of the fast food retailers in Europe doing that and tracing knives, forks, cups, plates, trays through the whole of the cycle. So you'd go in and you'd buy a product, might be a burger, maybe something else. And instead at the end, once you've finished, throwing it all in the one bin, you now would effectively put them in the appropriate bin. And RFID is used at that point to check that somebody actually hasn't thrown it away, and then you can take it out. But also what goes into the recycle process, what gets cleaned. And then from a regulatory standpoint, you can say, actually, I'm compliant to zero waste because I'm keeping hold of it and I can prove that I've done that.
It's a fantastic project. The only question is, I wonder, if many companies are really willing to do that. And probably, some big companies can afford that because it's also, it's also meaning that you're closer to your customer wishes, to the kind of customer you want, the people who are sensitive to this change and to recycling. But I can imagine this is going to be regulated very soon, if it's not already, right? So there's going to be some regulation, some legislation in every country which is going to be forcing you to do that. In that case, we are not talking about an opportunity. We are talking about something that if you don't do, you're going to be out of the market.
Yeah, compliance is the big one, and the discussions about fines, I'm not sure anybody's actually been fined yet, but I'm sure it'll be the big companies that get targeted and somebody has to be made an example of. So fitting in and driving to what really is a great goal, improving the planet. Everybody at the moment is, how can we improve the planet? And any little bit that can help, and if it means not throwing away your fast food cartons is a simple step to stop them getting into the sea, so be it.
But Andy, putting a tag, in a plastic fork, that might be expensive.
Define expensive, because if it's
not affordable.
So if it's those forks then getting disposed of incorrectly and causing multi-million pound cleanup programs in the Mediterranean,
yes,
then it becomes into it. With all RFID things is what actually is the cost that you're trying to improve, the visibility of hidden cost potentially, and actually the cost of putting in a sense tag to prevent, as I say, massive fines later down the line is.
And I personally think it's more than that. As we have discussed before, David, it's like sometimes you have to do things which might not be having a directly and clear return of investment, but your customers are sensitive to that. And if you don't take care of those things, your customers might be stopping going to your shop or going to your...
It's the cost of not doing something.
Exactly.
Is sometimes greater than the cost of
Correct.
doing it. And that's what this is referring to, right? If fast food companies had been allowed or were not aware of this issue and were not having their hands kind of pushed, they might have eventually got round to implementing some kind of system that would reduce it. But actually, this legislation's coming in, it's already in, right? They're being tasked with becoming compliant right now across Europe. So this isn't tomorrow, this is
today.
And this is, if I'm right, this is already being tested in the field.
Oh yes, yeah, it's deployed in several countries.
Yeah. So it's not a tomorrow's problem. This is happening right now, and it's a live solution. So.
Yeah.
You're also giving some examples before when we were just preparing the podcast, about, some big retailers also using different, the same technology, RFID, but in different uses, right? Some of them use it in the front cache. Some of them use it only to track, let's say, assets and also to track the stock they have in the shops, right?
Yeah, there's another example. It's linked to retail, but slightly different around asset management.
Yeah.
So we've got a customer in Sardinia that manufactures processed tomatoes. So they grow tomatoes.
Yep.
And effectively process them into very different forms for retailers. And of course, there's timing on produce, and when you lose produce, it's a cost.
Correct.
And they identified at the end of production batches they were short, and effectively it worked out to be tons of tomatoes that were not being accounted for. So simply working with one of our partners, adding RFID to their tracking system. So in any orientation in any part of the production facility, they knew where each batch of tomatoes was.
Yeah.
And then they can provide that traceability. And as we move now to, again, linked to climate, carbon footprints, traceability of where my food came from, they can start to do it. And also saves production when something goes missing, something gets lost. They can very, very quickly see what it is and where it is within their facility. I think it's something worked out as like 8 tons of tomatoes effectively is what they save or find now by deploying RFID labels, overhead readers, and then mobile readers through the plant for exception point reading.
Correct. Well, that's probably one of the most impacting examples I have seen in RFID. Of course, it's widely used, and manufacturing and retailers. Most of our customers are also in that area, but I'm sure there are other areas where RFID is probably representing a bigger opportunity, right? Healthcare, for sure, is the most sensitive because it's a need, right?
Healthcare is an interesting one, and it's always seen perhaps as a vertical that is slowing adopting technology because the pressure is on them to cure patients. So hopefully none of the listeners of this have actually ever had to have a major treatment or an incident to spend a long time in hospital. But we've worked with an ISV partner, Red Bytes, to implement a solution that saves clinicians in the hospital 2 weeks a year, which sounds an amazing number, and we were talking about it earlier.
So because I thought, 2 weeks on a hospital, that's not a lot. But when you clarified it as 2 weeks per clinician in those hospitals,
it's huge.
And we worked out rough numbers. It works out about 2,500 days per year per hospital of saved time, which is just an incredible number.
But it's actually quite a simple solution that's deployed. So at choke points or doors and gateways around the hospital, fixed readers are put in place, and they asset tag defibrillators, monitors, and those sorts of key assets that you would need to function in a hospital. So whereas before, Paco, you may have come in for an operation and you needed a monitor. The clinician didn't actually know where free and available monitors were, so they'd spend time going and looking around. Whereas now they have visibility in the department or in the hospital as a whole where machines could be and get someone immediately to go and find them.
Correct.
So it gives that visibility to where their assets are. It also allowed the IT departments to know what devices need or coming up to be serviced or need recalibration. So it's actually preventing failure, because again, there's nothing worse than the clinician racing towards a patient with a monitor to find actually it's out of warranty or out of calibration as part of that process.
Yeah, it's out of date. It's not compatible with the sensors that you're going to try and hook it up to. You've got the wrong cables, or I guess it helps that whole process become a lot more efficient, which is where the time
saving lacking, and they're progressing it, adding more things. Like you could even add trolleys, wheelchairs, beds, you name the asset, in theory you can add it. And it's very simply deployed. So the reader supports something called IoT Connect. So rather than having to put lots of complicated infrastructure into the hospital, which again is a whole mindset of capital expenditure, it uses a cloud connection. So as long as there is good connectivity, all the information flows to and from the cloud, can be viewed anywhere by the support organisation, even potentially in a mobile app for the doctors. It's a simple one. So easy stepping point for partners to get involved in the RFID story. Again, also if they don't want to look at large capital cost deployments as part of their projects.
Okay. No, healthcare is definitely one of those areas where we are seeing bigger demand, And do you, by the way, just out of curiosity, do you see a lot of resellers trying to enter in the RFID field and really not being able to follow or not being able to, let's say, to develop that area? Or
there's a lot of resellers coming up with clever ideas on how to use RFID.
Probably more ISVs than resellers, right?
More ISVs. But there are solution partners as well that come up with them, linked to perhaps areas of the market that they've seen and worked in before that they could add. Because really, RFID is just another data capture point.
Correct.
Whether it's a scanner, a sensor, it's just another method of capturing data. And the way that Zebra implements the RFID code, it's easy to do to input as another data field, the same way that you would capture a barcode.
I think it could be very nice also to listen a little bit deeper in that, because when you talk about Zebra, you know that basically a lot of people identifies the brand, with printers, with terminals, you name them, right? But not everyone identifies Zebra with the RFID, and I think you are a main big player, in this area, absolutely.
So globally, we are number one in UHF RFID at that level, and the history comes from acquisitions from when Zebra bought Motorola and Symbol as part of that one. So we have domain history. We've taken part in a lot of the very publicized trials that customers have done globally. Mm-hmm. So we've learned a lot, and we can share that knowledge as we educate partners as we go take them on the journey. But it's an easy way to get on board, but you have to be aware that conditions, the types of items you're looking to track could cause you problems.
But this is where the knowledge and the expertise of Zebra together with BlueStar can also help you, So it's, as we always said, ask glue, Hey, if you have a project there, you want to start there, we have the knowledge in-house. We have the knowledge of our partners, and they know how to guide you to get this project. So we've been talking about that, but I also would like to mention something different, right? Because you have been talking about retail before, but I'm sure, and you have given us some examples, but I'm sure, Andy, that there are many other opportunities in retail for our customers, right?
Retail has always been the I think, more publicized usage of RFID, and that's item level. Everybody remember the Walmart mandate of everything coming into their warehouse had to be tagged before it entered, which hasn't really taken off completely.
That's every mandate,
Over every mandate that does. But we are seeing item level tagging for really fast moving goods. It's where you need visibility of what have I got in stock, where am I short, particularly clothing. But you also see it in high value items. A number of the large brands utilize it around their assets to traceability, but again, reordering. I think the next step really that people are looking to work at is source tagging.
Okay.
So a lot of companies today, as they start their journey, retrospectively tag in the back room and bring it on. Big chains have started to, if they have a closed loop solution, get their vendors to add a tag as part of the manufacturing process, which is great because it saves cost. It also allows traceability from what they say is source to customer, source to end user. And that's becoming a trend. We've got a number of ISVs that are tracking cotton from the field through to the finished good. But also the next bit is, can I use RFID at the point of sale? Now, some of us may know companies that are playing with that one and are using it as a automatic read and the customer pays and walks out the door. The next step linked to that one is what happens if the customer returns the item? How do I use? How do I get that item with an RFID tag back into my system? Using it also for solving the problem of shrinkage within the business. Do I blow a bit inside the tag to say, yes, it's gone through my point of sale, or do I leave it so the alarms go off if you want to go down that route? So there's a lot of areas that it could work in retail and does work in retail, and there's certain bits of the jigsaw that need to be put together to complete the solution.
When you talk about reverse logistics, especially today with the e-commerce, this is an explosion of returns, right? And the companies are really struggling to handle those returns. There's a whole industry on reverse logistics. So when you say that that's the next step, you mean that there is a need there which is not covered, or you mean that the market is already starting to demand that kind of solutions? Because maybe the companies are not looking at RFID in that side, for any reason.
So I think reverse logistics is a headache for all companies. We all may have experienced, you buy 5 items, you only actually want one, you send the others back. How RFID fits into that process, particularly if you look at fashion, does the person cut the tag out to try it on?
Yeah, where does the tag sit in the product itself?
The tag get put back on if it's taken off?
Yep.
How do I know when I return the item that was the original tag that went with it? Because I could have been returning a low-cost item with a very high price tag.
Correct.
So that size, I think, is more the logistic at the store level of dealing with. Once you get back up the supply chain, it could be I re-tag it in my back office and I put it in the return to head office pile. As part of that. So that there are companies looking at it, but it's still that Andy brings the item back in and there isn't a tag.
Correct.
How do I deal with that?
Yeah, because especially if they're tagging at source, then you then have to have copies or backups or a version of the tag that you can then reapply to the product if they have taken it off for whatever reason. So I guess there is always, with returns, it's always going to be, there's going to be a human element to it. I don't think it's, even with the advancements we have now in technology, I think there's always going to need to be someone has to physically check that product, because obviously you need to check it for damage and has it been used,
of course,
anyway. So actually, would you save a huge amount of time for an investment in technology or a solution? I'm not sure that it would fit best in there. I think what we've talked about is that, we talked about different trends within retail. People want to interact with stores differently, all of the buy online, pick up in store, or buy online, click and collect, all of these things that we talk about. RFID can, for certain products, be very useful for that. You know, do I have this shirt in blue in this store in this size? Well, you may, but if you're doing manual stock checks, how often do you do that? How accurate are they? Whereas with RFID, done correctly, we've seen there are videos online of a child driving around in a little car with an RFID reader on the front, scanning an entire store, right? So, there are. It's obviously once the solution is designed and implemented, it should be a very efficient process for it to be done, and I think that's where we've seen it. Like you said, fashion retail is particular. That's a huge online and in-store industry.
And I think it's a well-proven one. All the case studies over the last number of years have been typically aimed at fashion retail. The one that always linked into this is, and it was part of the early scare stories, if you don't remove the tag, could someone work out what clothing I'm wearing? Or could I accidentally trigger an alarm as I walk into another store because I've left a source tag sewn into my jeans or whatever it may be?
Yeah.
So there's that human interaction or the human consciousness of being tagged as part of that element. So I think there's a natural thing to want to cut the tag out.
Yes, everybody's really concerned on that, but when you go to a hospital, you want to be tagged.
Yeah, so
because you want to avoid any kind of trouble.
When we were talking about that earlier, that's something that kind of occurred to me, and we hear stories, and it's awful when it happens, about people being lost in a hospital. You go from your ward location to have an X-ray, maybe.
Not on purpose, you mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Where someone's gone.
I know some stories, right?
Gone for a test or to have a procedure, and then they're like, "Oh, we don't know where Dave is in the hospital." Whereas, everyone has identification bracelets normally when you go into hospital. Utilizing that same infrastructure we're talking about for asset tracking, you could potentially track patients around the hospital in a very similar way. So you would kind of know at least the area that these people are in.
There were some early trials done during the pandemic, actually, where staff members were given tags that effectively allowed them to know whether they'd been in contact or were entering an area that there was a known COVID patient to trigger an alarm. It wasn't utilising UHF technology, it was using a different type of RFID technology, but effectively, tagging the staff to provide visibility of where the staff could and couldn't go is something that comes in. And I think in some countries they've tried tagging babies because you don't want to take the wrong baby home. And we all know a baby can all look the same, to a certain degree.
And it happened.
And it does happen.
And there's current systems in place for, particularly around babies that are in intensive care units for their mother's milk, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that the right baby gets the right milk. So
yes,
again,
correct.
you could utilise RFID in that same way in that situation as well to further reduce the opportunity for error.
Yeah, the most important in those cases is there is also, the return of investment is not so much important, by the quality of the service that you need to provide by default. So there is a less sensitive price kind of influence in this kind of concepts, because you're not looking only to be cheap. You're not only you're looking to be efficient, because you need and you must be efficient. Huh?
Yeah, the cost of failure to comply.
Exactly. Talking about the legislation behind it before, it's exactly the same case. Hey, but it's quite interesting, certainly BlueStar has got a big focus on RFID together with our colleagues from Zebra. We are bringing solutions to the market, and we are very much looking also to help our customers in this area, whether they are already stepping into that or they want to step into that. We have the knowledge in-house to work. We are also, from the marketing department, we are also opening some pages with knowledge on specifically on RFID to help. This is our side of the business, but in terms of sales, my dear friend, Mr. Forster, what can we do as BlueStar to help the people to step into this business?
Yeah, so BlueStar, in conjunction with Zebra, we have a wide network of both internal specializations. Yes. So we have people in our technical department who are very comfortable discussing RFID solutions, yes, and the appropriateness of the RFID solution in conjunction with Zebra. We also have a huge array of vetted ISVs, so partners that provide software solutions that are designed to work with RFID tracking technology. So if you're looking to better your own company and you want to develop in-house expertise, yes, we provide training and access to the resources required. Or if it's an end user, you had a conversation with an end user, they've maybe brought up the subject of RFID. They're like, we've heard about this kind of contactless tracking, yes, within and we think, we want to explore that as part of the next evolution of our internal process. Yes. Then we can put you in touch with someone. If you think that it's not going to be a long-term thing for your company, then we can put you in touch with a trusted software solutions partner. Correct. To develop that system for your end user.
That's one of the beauties of BlueStar, I think, and overall, we have different programs in order to be the connection point. We can help you find the ISV. We can help you. If you're an ISV, we can help you to find the partner. We can help you to find the environment you need also to develop your plan. So, and I think this is also part of our job, not only the distribution as it is known, but also to be the connection between these parties. Okay. So it was quite interesting. Andy, before we finish, what is there in the future, for Zebra and the RFID? Is there anything that you would like to highlight to us?
Well, within the RFID space, there's always faster tags, faster read tags, tags for different applications. That was always used to be a thing if you couldn't put a tag on certain types. Yeah, that's always now. These days, the range of tags is growing. At a high level, there's things in the works, shall we say?
Okay, but I see him smiling, so that's something nice.
Something we haven't really discussed the tags, and I guess now's not necessarily the right time, but it's worth noting that Zebra can design and manufacture their own RFID tag solution. So it's not all
parts of the portfolio, from the media all the way through the print and code, and read at the other end as part of that one. So it's a full family.
Yeah. So I guess if you want to know more about that, then ask Blue.
Ask Blue, as we always say. So thank you very much indeed, Andy.
Thank you.
I think, it's very clear that that's the message. If you want to talk about RFID, we are your one-stop shop. That's absolutely the message. So, Andy, thank you very much. It was great to hear
Good to see you.
your story, and then your examples and your experience in the RFID is exciting. David, thank you very much indeed. And I am sure, because we see the numbers, that RFID is going to mean a big part of the business for us in the coming years. So thank you very much indeed, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.